My name is Amelia Carter, and last summer, I bought my father a brand new Mercedes-Benz for his 40th birthday. A week later, I returned it to the dealership while he laughed at a family barbecue I wasn't invited to. He said he didn't want to celebrate this year. Apparently, this year didn't include me. Have you ever done everything for someone, only to be treated like a ghost at your own father's party? Let me know where you're watching from in the comments and tell me, have you ever had to reclaim your power from the very people who were supposed to protect it? Let me tell you how my story started. Right there in our polished living room in Jacksonville, Florida, the soft clink of ice against whiskey glasses echoed under the warm ceiling lights of our family's living room, dressed to perfection for Dad's 39th. Beige velvet curtains drawn back. Glass coffee table spotless. A banner strung across the mantel. Happy 39 Marcus. And there I stood, Amelia Carter, the daughter who'd wrapped the gift no one saw. He laughed at one of Hannah's jokes, loud and full-bodied, the kind of laugh he used to save for my childhood performances. I'd spent a full month researching that watch. Elegant, solar-powered titanium casing, sapphire crystal face. It cost me nearly half my monthly income. He unwrapped it while chatting with Uncle Troy. Gave it a glance. A polite thanks, sweetheart. That was it. Meanwhile, Hannah handed him a novelty mug. #1 Grill. Dad and the room roared. Mom actually clapped. You're terrible, Han, Dad beamed. You know I hate attention, right? I leaned against the far wall, watching them pass around plates of sliders and deviled eggs I'd prepped that morning while Hannah slept in. I caught Nathan's eyes across the room. He gave me a small, tight smile like I see you, even if they don't. Happy birthday, Dad, I said when the room got quiet enough. He didn't look up. Just nodded mid-sip. Hannah jumped in with another quip about their trip to Asheville and he was gone again, his gaze, his attention, the tiny sliver of acknowledgement. 3 hours later, we were in the car. Rain streaked the windshield like tears no one had the courage to shed. Nathan drove in silence, his fingers tapping the wheel in quiet rhythm. We didn't even turn the radio on. Didn't even look at the box, I finally said. The watch, Nathan's mouth tightened. I noticed. Mom saw it too, I said bitterly. But she just said, oh, a watch, that's nice, and kept pouring wine for Aunt Pam. We stopped at a red light. Outside, a kid was holding a drenched sign advertising car washes. Somehow that felt symbolic. I work overtime, I muttered. I plan everything, I host. I text reminders for appointments. I even rescheduled my dentist so I wouldn't miss today. Nathan reached over and gently squeezed my hand. Why is it, I said, staring straight ahead, that I do everything and I'm still invisible to them? The light turned green. We didn't move. They see you, Mel, he said quietly. They just don't value you. There's a difference. That hit harder than I wanted it to. I looked out the window, pretending to watch the rain. Back at our apartment, I placed the empty watch box back into the closet, tucked between old sweaters and good intentions. I didn't cry. I just stood there, with the silence roaring louder than any birthday cheer. This year I had tried so hard. Next year, maybe I'd try even harder, or maybe I'd do something else. The backyard was quiet, except for the creak of the old wooden swing swaying in the breeze. I sat cross-legged under the wide oak tree that had shaded our yard since I was a kid, its roots coiled like secrets in the soil. Nathan was next to me, sipping iced coffee, his long legs stretched out across the grass. I picked at a blade of grass, twirling it between my fingers. Do you think I'm overcompensating? Nathan looked over at me, squinting slightly in the sun. For what? For trying so hard with my family. I let the words settle between us. Trying to buy their love, maybe. He didn't answer right away, just watched me, his expression soft. No, he said eventually. You're not buying love. You're just trying to earn what should already be given. I nodded, lips pressed tight. I've been thinking about Dad's 40th. It's a big one, right? Round number, fresh decade. I want to do something different, bigger. Nathan set his drink down and leaned toward me, elbows on his knees. How much bigger are we talking? A car, I said, barely above a whisper. I want to buy him a car, he blinked. Like a model car? No. I looked up at the branches above us, light filtering through the leaves like a stained glass canopy. A real one, a nice one, something clean and classic. His old Camry's practically coughing up bolts. Nathan let out a low whistle. That's bold, you're serious? I nodded, suddenly shy about it. I've been picking up extra shifts at the clinic, doubling up on weekend coverage. I've saved about 6 grand already. And I was thinking if I borrow a little more, just until Christmas bonuses come in, I could make it work. His brow furrowed. Borrow from where? I hesitated. You. Nathan exhaled through his nose, not annoyed, just thoughtful. You know I'll lend it to you, he said. But Amelia, are you sure this is the hill you want to climb again, after how they treated you at the party? I know, I murmured. I know it doesn't make sense. But it's not about what they did last week. It's about what I need to do now. Maybe this is the moment Dad sees me differently. Maybe he finally realizes everything I do. My voice cracked. I need that moment, Nathan. He was quiet for a few beats. Then he reached over and laced his fingers through mine. If this gives you peace, I'll support you, you know that. Tears stung my eyes. I didn't let them fall. It's not about impressing them. Not really. It's about showing I'm enough. You already are, he said simply. But if you need the car to say it louder, then let's do it. I leaned my head on his shoulder, exhaling into the space between relief and fear. The wind rustled the leaves above us, carrying the scent of jasmine and sun-warmed earth, a moment of calm in the middle of chaos. We sat like that for a while, not talking, just existing. Eventually, I pulled out my phone and opened the list I'd been curating for weeks: dealerships, financing options, custom plate ideas. I showed him a photo of a pearl-white Mercedes sedan. He always wanted a Benz, I said softly. He used to say it was the one thing he'd never buy for himself. Nathan smiled faintly. Then maybe it's time someone else did. That night, back at our apartment, I laid in bed staring at the ceiling fans spinning overhead, imagining the moment. Dad walking out of the house, the car parked in the driveway with a red ribbon on top, the shock on his face, the gratitude, the pride. I could hear his voice, "You did this for me," and me finally saying, "Yes, because I love you and I wanted you to know." It wasn't just a fantasy, it was a hope, a fragile, trembling hope, and I was clinging to it with everything I had. The glass doors slid open with a soft mechanical hiss, letting in a gust of warm air scented with new leather and something else, something expensive. The showroom on Bay Meadows Road gleamed like a jewelry box. Chrome trims, polished floors, crystal lighting overhead. I'd driven past this dealership a dozen times before, always thinking someday. Today I walked in with purpose. Nathan's fingers brushed the small of my back as we stepped inside. You ready for this? I glanced around at the showroom like I was holding my breath. I've never bought anything this big before. A salesman spotted us immediately, a tall man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and an easy smile. His name tag read Elliot. He walked toward us like he already knew we weren't just browsing. Looking for something special today? He asked, folding his hands like he was presenting a magic trick. It's for my dad, I said, trying not to sound nervous. His 40th birthday is coming up. I want something clean, classic, but memorable. Elliot nodded like he'd been waiting his whole career for a daughter like me. Well, you're in the right place. Let's start over here. Any brand in mind? I hesitated. A Mercedes. He's always wanted one, but he'd never buy it for himself. Nathan added, he's not the flashy type, more understated luxury. Got it, Elliot said, leading us past a row of glossy black SUVs. Let's look at the sedans. We stopped in front of a pearl-white E-Class. It was perfect. Sleek lines, leather seats stitched like they belonged in a private jet, and the smell like confidence bottled and sold at premium. I circled the car slowly, fingertips grazing the side mirror, the door handle, the hood. This, I whispered. This feels like him. Nathan grinned. Yeah, this feels like you too. Elliot opened the driver's door and gestured for me to sit inside. I slipped in, running my hands over the wheel. My heart was thudding, fast but steady. He's going to lose it when he sees this, I said, almost to myself. He'll remember this for the rest of his life, Elliot replied, standing beside the door like some kind of proud uncle. Would you like to take a look at financing? I nodded, standing up slowly like the moment needed a breath before it moved forward. Inside the office, papers shuffled. Numbers were crunched. Down payments were discussed. Nathan sat beside me the whole time, his hand firm over mine when I hesitated. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, he said quietly. I know, I said, but maybe I just need him to see me for once. The final total came with a weight, but it didn't scare me. I had saved, borrowed, planned. Every shift I worked late, every night I skipped dinner and lived off granola bars, every time I stayed quiet when Hannah's name came up instead of mine, it had led here. I want to include a custom plate, I told Elliot as I signed the last page. Just one word, ROOTS. Nathan looked at me sideways. Roots. My dad always says no matter how far you go, you don't forget where you came from. He didn't say anything, just squeezed my hand harder. We walked back out to the car together and Elliot handed me the key fob. It was small, heavy, smooth, like something that should come in a velvet box. The symbolic weight of it didn't hit me until I held it in my palm. This is real, I whispered. Nathan leaned in. It always was, you've been real since day one. Maybe now he'll finally see it. I looked at the car again. Sunlight danced along the paint like it had been dipped in pearl. Delivery in 3 weeks, Elliot confirmed, shaking my hand. Just in time, perfect timing, just like I planned. As we left the dealership, the afternoon sun spilled gold across the sidewalk. I felt lightheaded but steady, hopeful, because maybe, just maybe, this was the year my dad would finally say the one thing I'd been chasing since I was a girl. I'm proud of you, Amelia. 2 weeks before Dad's birthday, the group text pinged just as I was leaving the pharmacy. I had just picked up the keychain I planned to tie to the ribbon on the car keys, a small silver tag that said thank you for being my first home. The message came from my dad, sent to the whole family chat. Dad, Marcus Carter. Hey everyone, I've decided not to do anything for my birthday this year. Please don't come by, I'll be busy. Just need a low-key day. Thanks for understanding. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, blinking at the screen. Traffic buzzed past on Beach Boulevard, but everything around me felt weirdly still. Nathan was waiting in the car. I slid into the passenger seat without a word and showed him the message. He read it, then frowned. No party, that's surprising. I nodded slowly, trying to read between the lines. He's been talking about his 40th since February, even joked about renting a lake house with a grill big enough to fit a whole pig. And now he suddenly wants to be alone. Nathan shrugged, starting the engine. Maybe he'd changed his mind. People get weird about milestone birthdays. Maybe, I murmured, but something in my stomach twisted. Dad wasn't shy about being celebrated. He always joked about being the humble king. Last year he wore a paper crown the entire afternoon without irony. I stared at the message again, rereading it. The tone was, clipped, too formal for him, and busy. Busy with what? I texted back me. Okay, if that's what you want. Just let me know if you change your mind. Love you, no response. Nathan reached over and squeezed my hand on the gear shift. Maybe he's planning something quiet, just for himself, a solo day to reflect. I gave him a sideways look. My dad reflect, he chuckled. Fair, he reflects about as often as he skips barbecue sauce. Still, I tried to accept it, tried not to overthink. After all, people were allowed to want space, right? But that night, I caught myself double-checking the group chat. Everyone else had responded casually. Even Hannah had dropped a breezy, totally get it, Dad. Enjoy your chill day, party popper. I stared at her message a little too long. She always made sure she was at the party, the star of it, really. Why wasn't she pushing back? By bedtime, I had gone through 4 scenarios in my head. Maybe he was going through something he didn't want to talk about. Maybe he really needed a break. Maybe, God forbid, he was sick and not telling anyone, or maybe something else. Nathan saw the look on my face as I brushed my teeth, that quiet storm building behind my eyes. He set his toothbrush down. Hey, just say it. I feel like something's off, I said quietly. I don't know what, but this doesn't feel like him. He nodded. Then trust your gut, but whatever it is, you're not crazy. I gave a half smile, rinsed my mouth, and turned off the light. Still, I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, picturing the Mercedes waiting at the dealership. The envelope with the final receipt tucked in my sock drawer. The velvet box on my dresser. The words Happy 40th already printed on the card I'd picked out. I had imagined him laughing when he saw the car, shaking his head, getting choked up, not sending a text that canceled everything before it could begin. I rolled onto my side and told myself not to take it personally. But deep down, I already had. The morning sun streamed through the blinds like nothing was wrong. A bright, cloudless Florida sky, the kind Dad always called good grillin' weather. I sat at the kitchen table, phone face down beside my tea. The velvet box rested in front of me, still open, the keys glinting under the light. It was his 40th birthday. I'd already tried calling 3 times. No answer. I scrolled through my texts again. Nothing new since his don't come over message from last week. No updates, no change of heart, not even a lazy thanks for understanding. Just silence. Nathan stepped into the kitchen, towel slung around his neck from his morning run. He clocked my expression instantly. Still nothing, I shook my head. He poured himself a glass of water, then came to stand beside me. His hand rested on my shoulder, warm and grounding. Maybe he's just sleeping in, he offered gently. Maybe, I tried to sound casual. It came out too tight. He looked down at the box on the table. You still want to give it to him? I don't know, I said quietly. I bought it for him, that doesn't change. Nathan sat down across from me, his hands folded, watching me like I was glass, and he was trying not to press too hard. Mel, I know you're trying to hold space for him to be, however he wants to be today, but you don't have to twist yourself into a knot to make his silence make sense. I sighed. It's not even that I expect a celebration. I don't need cake. I don't need thanks. I just thought he'd want to see me. Nathan nodded, leaning back. Wrap the box. Whether he ever opens it or not, that's on him, but you'll know you showed up. That was the thing about Nathan. He never pushed, just reflected my own words back to me in a way that made me braver. So I got up, walked to the hutch, and pulled out the ribbon I'd picked weeks ago. Red silk, not loud but rich. Intentional. I folded the tissue paper around the fob, tucked the ROTS keychain alongside it, and placed them gently into the box. The click of the lid felt final, like a period at the end of a sentence I wasn't sure I'd finished writing. Then I carried it out onto the front porch, settling into the wicker chair by the door. I placed the gift on my lap and set my phone on the little side table. Every time it buzzed, I checked it. Spam text. Promotional ad. Weather alert. Never him. Hours passed like slow drips from a leaky faucet. The breeze was soft. Birds chirped. A neighbor across the street watered her hanging plants. Life moving on, but I sat there waiting. At noon, Nathan came out holding a steaming mug. Mint tea, he said, handing it to me. And a suggestion. I smiled faintly, taking the cup. Yeah, let's go out later, just the two of us. Nothing fancy. Burgers, beach, bad arcade games. Anything to remind you the day's not about who doesn't show up, it's about who does. I looked down at the box again. What if I'm overreacting? He tilted his head. Are you? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Look, he said, kneeling beside my chair so our eyes were level. I've watched you bend backward to make space for a man who rarely meets you halfway. This, he nodded toward the box. This was love, this was devotion, and if he chooses not to show up for that, it's not your failure, it's his. I swallowed hard. I wanted it to matter. Nathan reached up, brushing my hair gently behind my ear. It did. It does. Maybe not to him, but to me. To anyone watching, you keep showing up with a full heart despite being handed crumbs. He smiled. That kind of love doesn't go unnoticed. The lump in my throat made it hard to answer. So I nodded, sipped the tea, tried to let his words settle somewhere inside me where they wouldn't break. That afternoon, I left the box on the coffee table. Still wrapped, still waiting. And we went out. Just me and Nathan. Because sometimes, when the people you love won't celebrate with you, you have to celebrate yourself anyway. That night, back from our quiet drive along the coast, Nathan and I curled up on the couch. The burger joint we found had old-fashioned milkshakes and cracked leather booths. We didn't talk much, but he made me laugh once by trying to order the greasiest thing that won't kill me before Tuesday, and that had been enough to feel human again. I was still in my jeans, feet tucked under a throw blanket, the velvet box unopened on the coffee table in front of us like a silent guest. Nathan had gone to shower. I was left with my phone and the soft hum of the ceiling fan, and for the first time all day, I opened Instagram. Just muscle memory at first. Mindless. Tap, swipe, scroll. Until a familiar name stopped me cold. At Hannah Carter XO posted 1H ago view story, I tapped it. The screen lit up with motion and sound. A backyard barbecue, our backyard. Dad stood at the grill, tongs in hand, flipping steaks like a seasoned showman. Aunt Shay was there, laughing too loudly, holding a red Solo cup. Mom hovered at the table, arranging paper plates, her sun hat tilted back on her head like it always did when she was in hostess mode. There were balloons tied to the fence. Balloons, gold and black. 40th birthday colors. And above the patio doors, a fabric banner stretched wide, saying in bold cursive, Happy 40th Marcus. I blinked, my thumb frozen on the screen. My breath caught in my throat. She'd captioned it. Nothing better than celebrating with the whole fam, partying, balloon grilled at 40 Anthriving. The video kept looping. In the background, music played. One of Dad's favorite old-school funk songs. His head bobbed with the beat. He was smiling, smiling. I stared so long at the screen that my eyes blurred. I could hear my pulse in my ears. I didn't even realize Nathan had come back into the room until he sat beside me. "What is it?" he asked softly. I turned the screen toward him, his jaw tightened as he watched. "That's today," I nodded, but the word didn't come out. Couldn't. I swiped again, needing proof I had imagined it wrong. But no, it was all there. More videos. Boomerangs of Hannah clinking glasses. A carousel of photos, Dad holding a wrapped gift. Hannah hugging him with both arms. Cousin Mike in the background, waving at the camera. My uncle lighting the grill with that ridiculous torch he brings to every barbecue. The decorations, I recognized them. The striped paper lanterns, the tablecloths. I had bought them last year for Dad's 39th and packed them into our attic when no one else bothered to clean up. Those were my details. And now they were here. At a party I was told didn't exist. Nathan looked at me, his voice low. "They lied to you." I could only nod. My throat had gone dry. "It wasn't that he didn't want to celebrate," I whispered. "He just didn't want me there." Nathan didn't try to deny it. He didn't offer any silver lining. He just took the phone from my hand, set it face down on the couch cushion, and pulled me close. I let my head fall against his shoulder, but my eyes stayed wide open. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was something deeper. That kind of quiet where everything finally clicks into place, and none of it is good. The velvet box sat untouched, still tied in red silk. And all I could think was, I wrapped that gift with love, I believed his text, I trusted his word. And now I was the only one not at the party in my own backyard. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry, anger would have been easier. I didn't pace the apartment or cry into my pillow. I just lay there. Eyes open, fixed on the ceiling fan above our bed as it spun in slow, deliberate circles. Somewhere a party had ended. Laughter faded. Cake eaten, dishes scraped and dumped. My father, probably a little buzzed, was back in his recliner. Hannah might have already uploaded more photos, tagging half the family. But me, I was here. Alone with the echo of that text, "Don't come over, I'll be busy." By morning, the silence was unbearable. The kind that clings to your skin. That makes you feel like you don't exist outside your own four walls. I slipped out of bed, pulled on a hoodie, and padded barefoot into the living room. The velvet box still sat on the coffee table where I'd left it, its ribbon perfectly tied, untouched, unaware. Like a gift waiting for a doorbell that would never ring. I stared at it for a long time. Then I picked it up and carried it to the kitchen. Nathan came out 10 minutes later, his hair damp from the shower, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He paused when he saw me standing by the sink, the gift box in my hands. He didn't ask what I was thinking. I think he already knew. I looked at him. My voice was steady, clearer than it had been in days. "We're returning the car tomorrow." Nathan didn't blink. He stepped closer and reached for my hand, the one not holding the box. "Okay," he said, just that. No hesitation, no disbelief, no trying to talk me out of it. I placed the box down on the counter, untied the ribbon, and opened the lid slowly. The keys gleamed like something ceremonial, but to me they were just metal now, expensive, unnecessary metal. Nathan watched quietly as I removed the keychain, ROTS, and turned it over in my fingers. "I really thought this would change something," I said. "It did," he replied. "Just not in the way you expected," I exhaled. "I thought, if I gave enough, they'd finally let me in." Nathan tilted his head gently. "What if you were never actually out? What if they just don't know how to see you?" I looked up at him. "Does that make it better?" He didn't answer. And he didn't need to. I walked over to the hallway closet, pulled out the dealership folder with the receipt, the registration docs, everything Elliot had handed me with pride. They'd been filed under surprises in our drawer. Funny, isn't it? You can spend months planning a surprise for someone, only to be blindsided by one they've been hiding from you. I placed the documents back into the folder, closed it, then I wrapped the keys in the dealership pouch and set them on top. Nathan came behind me and rested his chin on my shoulder. His voice was quiet. "Let's get your money back," he said, "and your dignity." A small breath escaped my lips, half a laugh, half a sob. "Do they give refunds for years of trying?" He squeezed my shoulder. "No. But they give receipts. And this time you keep one." We sat together on the couch, the folder on the coffee table between us, silent but understood. No vengeance. No drama, just clarity. I didn't need to burn bridges. I just needed to stop building them alone. The next day, the sun was high and hot, casting sharp shadows across the polished pavement outside the dealership. Nathan and I walked side by side through the automatic doors, the folder clutched tight in my hand, the keys zipped inside their leather pouch. It was quiet inside, save for the distant hum of a vacuum and the low click of someone's dress shoes across the showroom floor. Elliot greeted us with a sympathetic smile, like he already understood something had shifted. "No problems with the return," he assured me as we sat down at his desk. "It'll take a few business days to process the refund, but you're well within the window, and I'll waive the restocking fee. I can tell this wasn't an easy decision." I smiled faintly. "Thank you for understanding." Nathan reached over and rubbed a slow circle on my back. I kept my hands folded in my lap, trying not to think about how just a week ago I'd sat in that same chair beaming with pride. "Can I ask what changed?" Elliot asked, not rudely, just curiously. I met his eyes, then glanced at Nathan and replied, "Let's just say the surprise wasn't mutual." Elliot nodded, saying nothing more, and turned to his computer. I was grateful for that. While he typed, I stood up to stretch my legs. The showroom windows overlooked the lot, where rows of cars gleamed under the sun. As I turned to walk past the front reception, I spotted a familiar figure near the SUV display. Curly auburn hair, wedge sandals, flowy blouse, Aunt Lydia. I blinked. Was I imagining things? But then she turned, eyes lighting up when she saw me. "Amelia," I forced a smile and walked over. "Hi, Aunt Lydia, didn't expect to see you here." "Same, I'm car shopping," she laughed, tapping the hood of a slate blue SUV. "Terry's finally letting me replace the family dinosaur." I nodded, a little surprised. "That's great, you're upgrading." She leaned in, eyes twinkling. "But more importantly, what about you? Don't tell me you're here buying another car." I let out a weak laugh. "No, actually, I'm returning one." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh, it was a gift," I said carefully. "That didn't quite land." "Oof," she said, wincing in sympathy. "I hate that." Then she tilted her head, her tone light. "Is this about Marcus's birthday?" My stomach twisted. "You heard. Of course, Hannah posted a whole album. Looked like everyone was there except he." She trailed off. Her eyes flicked across my face and softened. "I didn't realize you weren't invited." I nodded once, tightly. Lydia glanced at the paperwork in my hand. "And this was his birthday gift." "A Mercedes," I said, and suddenly the words felt absurd. "I was going to surprise him. I saved for months." She stared at me, stunned. "Amelia, that's incredibly generous." I swallowed hard. "I guess too generous." She reached out and touched my arm gently. "Sweetheart, I know things aren't always balanced in your family. You've carried more than your share." I smiled bitterly. "Yeah. Like the mortgage payments, right?" She tilted her head. "What do you mean?" I blinked. "You know, I've been covering part of their mortgage for the last couple years, helping them stay afloat. It's not a big deal, just small automatic transfers every month." Lydia's face froze. She slowly pulled her sunglasses down over her eyes and said carefully, "Amelia, their house was paid off years ago." My heart skipped. "What?" "I mean it," she said, lowering her voice. "They paid off that mortgage in full 2018, I think. I remember because your dad made a toast about it at that 4th of July barbecue." I stared at her. Words jammed up in my throat. But I shook my head. "They said they were behind, that it was temporary, that I was helping cover interest." "Sweetheart," Lydia said softly, "they haven't had a mortgage in years." The air around me seemed to thicken. My hands grew cold. I had been sending money, every month, because they told me they were struggling, because they made it sound like the house was in jeopardy, like I was the only one keeping it from slipping away. But it had already been theirs, paid off, secure, all this time. Nathan appeared beside me, sensing the shift. "Everything okay?" I looked at him, then at Lydia, and finally down at the paperwork in my hand. Something inside me cracked, not loud, not violent. Quiet. Like a porcelain cup slowly splitting down the middle. "They lied," I said. Nathan touched my back gently. "About the party?" I shook my head. "About everything." Back home, I didn't speak for the first hour. Nathan didn't press me. He just handed me a glass of water, then quietly took the returned car paperwork and slipped it into our filing cabinet like it was any other bill. I sat at the edge of the bed, shoes still on, staring at nothing. I wasn't numb this time. I was done. No more guilt. No more trying to earn my place at a table where the chairs had been quietly pulled away. I had a different kind of clarity now, the kind that makes you stop asking why and start saying enough. I stood up, walked to the kitchen counter, and pulled out the little gray notebook where I kept every login and password, the one marked family stuff. I opened my laptop. One by one, I logged into each account. Electric bill. Gone. Their water provider, cancelled. Internet, done. My mother's streaming service, tied to my card, removed. Then finally the monthly transfer labeled Carter Mortgage, $450. The one I'd never missed, not once, for almost 3 years. I hovered over the cancel auto payment button for a long breath. I thought about the text from Dad, "Don't come over, I'll be busy." I thought about the party, the photos, the banner, my decorations, my place erased. Then I clicked, confirmed. Nathan leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, watching me. "You sure?" he asked gently. I nodded. "I've been paying for a lie, that ends tonight." He walked over and kissed the top of my head. "You don't owe them anything." "I know," I said quietly, but I needed to feel it, not just say it. I closed the laptop, closed the notebook, and then for the first time in years felt the air shift around me. Like a weight had been lifted, a cord cut. They don't even know yet, I thought, but they would. The call came the next afternoon. I was chopping vegetables for dinner when my phone lit up. "Dad." I let it ring twice before answering. "Hey," I said, cool and calm. "Hey, baby girl," he said as if nothing had happened. "Just wanted to check in, had a great birthday yesterday. Family came by, you probably saw the pictures." I kept chopping. "I did," he chuckled, like that made it all okay. "Anyway, I was thinking, if you've got something planned, don't wait too long to spring it on me. You know I hate suspense." I paused, knife hovering above a carrot. "Something planned," I repeated. "Yeah," he said lightly. "The big surprise. Hannah said you were being mysterious lately. You know, I figured it's probably something huge. You've always had a flair for big gestures." I wiped my hands on a towel and walked into the living room. "I did have a surprise," I said, settling onto the couch. "But it's already been delivered." There was a beat of silence. "Oh, what is it?" "Your present," I said evenly, "is your mortgage." Another pause. "What?" "You get to pay it yourself now," I said, folding one leg over the other. "Every bill, every service, your name, your responsibility. I've been carrying it for years, and I just found out the house was paid off in 2018, which means you've been letting me throw away money for nothing." His voice changed, defensiveness creeping in. "Now hold on." "No," I interrupted, voice sharper now. "You lied, you manipulated me. You said you needed help and I believed you, because you were my father, because I thought helping meant love. You don't understand." "I understand enough," I said. "I know you looked me in the eye and let me keep sending money while you were throwing backyard barbecues and laughing with the people who helped you keep secrets from me." "Amelia, you're being dramatic." I smiled coldly. "And you're being exposed." His voice dropped an octave, the warmth gone. "You think you're punishing me. You're only hurting yourself." "No," I said, "I'm protecting myself, there's a difference." There was a long silence, and then like clockwork, "You don't mean this." "I do. You're going to regret cutting off your own family." "No," I said quietly, "I'm finally starting to feel like I have one." I hung up. Let the silence sit. Nathan appeared in the hallway, still drying his hands from doing the dishes. "That the call?" "Yeah," I said, standing, "and—" I said what needed to be said. He nodded, calm as ever. "Good." I walked to the window and looked out at the street, the world moving like always. But something inside me had stopped spinning. They could call it dramatic. They could call it betrayal. But I called it the beginning of my freedom. A week later, the ocean greeted me with a kind of calm that felt earned. Neptune Beach stretched wide and open under a sky streaked with lavender and gold. The salty air tangled in my hair, and the bonfire we built crackled softly as dusk settled in. I turned 32 that day. No banners, no pressure. Just laughter that didn't feel forced and hugs that didn't come with strings attached. Nathan sat beside me on the sand, one arm around my waist, barefoot, grinning as he told some half-true story about us trying to pitch a tent during a storm in the Keys. Across from us, Aunt Lydia was laughing so hard she had to wipe tears from under her sunglasses. And next to her, my 2 oldest friends, Sierra and Jazz, were passing around a plate of cupcakes, already singing a second round of Happy Birthday because Lydia insisted the first one was off-key. "I told you she doesn't like frosting roses," Jazz teased, shoving a pink-swirled cupcake into my hand. I laughed. "You're lucky I like you more than cake." The flames flickered between us, catching in their eyes, their smiles, their open-hearted presence. There was no one here who needed convincing to love me, no one here who kept me in the shadows. And as the sun slipped lower, casting molten light across the horizon, I took out my phone. I snapped a photo, Lydia mid-laugh, Nathan leaning into me, Sierra and Jazz with arms linked and crumbs on their chins. I posted it. Caption, "Only the closest people." Water sparkles fire birthday no tags. No drama. Just truth. I didn't look at who viewed it, I didn't care. I felt something I hadn't in years on my birthday, joy without performance. Peace without pretending. Nathan leaned in and kissed the side of my head. You okay? I looked at him, then back at the fire. Yeah, I said. For the first time in a long time, I really am. And I meant it. No calls from Dad. No texts from Hannah, and I didn't miss them. Not even a little. The fire had died down by the time we packed up. Sand clung to my jeans, and my cheeks ached in the best way from hours of real laughter. Nathan drove us home with the windows cracked open, letting the salt air blow through the quiet. I showered as soon as we got back, letting the warm water rinse away sunscreen, sweat, and any lingering tension. But just as I stepped out, I heard my phone vibrating on the bathroom counter over and over again. 5 missed calls. All from Dad. 3 more right after from Hannah. I stared at the screen, still damp towel wrapped around me, heart suddenly quiet in my chest. I didn't need to answer to know what this was, but I did anyway. I dried my hand on the towel and picked up the phone. Hello, I said flatly. Amelia. My father's voice was sharp, clipped. What the hell is this post? I stayed silent. That caption, only the closest people, really, he went on. You post that on your birthday after ghosting us for mine. I bit down on the laugh that almost escaped. Ghosting you, I repeated. You told me not to come over. That's not the point, he snapped. You knew we were having something, you saw the photos, and instead of talking to me you pull this petty stunt online. Petty, I echoed. You lied to me about your birthday, about the mortgage, about needing help, but I'm the one being petty. Watch your tone, he warned. No, I said, calm as glass. I think it's time you watched yours. There was a pause, like he didn't know what to do with my evenness. Then came the sigh, the one that always came right before he turned the guilt inward. You've always been dramatic, Amelia, sensitive, you take things so personally. I sent you thousands of dollars over the years, skipped vacations, skipped nights out, said no to things I wanted so you could keep pretending I was just a safety net you never had to thank. He was quiet. And then, from the other end of the line, so that's it. You're done being part of this family over a misunderstanding. I almost laughed. A misunderstanding, I repeated. Is that what you call manipulation now? Amelia, I'm not yelling, I'm not crying, so I think that's what's throwing you off. Another call beeped in. Hannah, I ignored it. I posted the truth, I said. It wasn't a message to you, it was a message to myself, and I'm not sorry. His voice shifted then, colder, defensive. You think you're so righteous, like you're above everyone now. You wouldn't even have half of what you have if it weren't for this family. Exactly, I said. You taught me everything I know about love being transactional, so I'm just honoring the lesson. And then I hung up. The phone buzzed again almost immediately, this time a FaceTime from Hannah. I let it ring. Then declined. 30 seconds later, she sent a voice message. I hit play. Her voice was sharp, the smile stripped from it. Seriously, after everything we've done for you, you go and post that. What kind of sister does that? You're acting like you're some victim. You chose to give us money, no one begged. And now you're trying to humiliate us online. Grow up, Amelia. I stared at the waveform moving across the screen. Then hit delete. I opened the contact list, tapped on Dad, blocked, then Hannah, blocked. No fury, no fire, just a door clicking shut. Nathan appeared in the doorway, towel around his neck, sensing the shift. That was them, he asked. Yeah, I said, setting the phone down. They wanted answers. He stepped closer. Did you give them any? I nodded once. Enough to end it. We stood there in the soft quiet of our apartment, and for the first time I didn't feel like a daughter or a sister or the family fixer. I felt like a woman who'd finally stepped outside the circle they'd drawn around her, and closed it behind her. In the weeks that followed, the dust didn't settle, it shifted. The first few days were quiet, almost suspiciously so. Then the group texts began to light up again. Not from Dad or Hannah, those bridges had been cleanly, finally burned, but from the extended branches of the Carter tree. Cousins, great-aunts, people who hadn't called me in years suddenly had long messages about family unity and disrespect. I didn't answer most of them. I read each one slowly. Some arrived sharp, like knives disguised as concern. Whatever's going on, you shouldn't air it on social media. Your father has always done his best. You think you're better than the rest of us now? I scrolled past those. But then there were others. Quieter messages, fewer words, more truth. I saw your post, proud of you. Cousin Raina, wish I had your courage, I still send money every month and no one says thank you. Uncle Sean. Good for you, sweetheart. It's okay to outgrow people even if they share your blood. Aunt Lydia. Those, I answered. I wasn't trying to pick sides. I was simply choosing peace. One Tuesday afternoon, I stood in line at the bank. I had the check from the dealership refund in my purse, and it felt heavier than it should have. Not because of the money, but because of what it meant now. When the teller smiled and asked what the deposit was for, I almost answered freedom. Instead, I just slid the check across the counter. Would you like to assign this to a savings account? She asked. I hesitated, then nodded. Yes, actually, I'd like to open a new one. She smiled, hands poised over the keyboard. What would you like to call it? I looked down at my hands, then up at her again. Self-love fund, I said, her eyebrows lifted slightly in surprise. That's beautiful, I smiled. Yeah, I think so too. The next day, I sat across from a therapist for the first time in my adult life. Her office was filled with warm tones and soft lighting, like a space designed for truth. I told her I'd grown up with a father who made affection conditional. That love in my family was something earned, not given. That even as an adult, I'd been auditioning for a part in a play they never intended to cast me in. She didn't say much at first, just nodded, letting the words unfold like stiff, creased pages of an old book. Near the end of our session, she asked, "What do you want to get out of this process?" I thought for a long time, then said, "I want to stop thinking love has to hurt." She nodded. That's a good place to begin. And it was. A year can do a lot of things. It can quiet a storm, rebuild the parts of you thought were gone, even gently remind you who you were before the guilt, before the people who used your kindness like a checkbook they never planned to repay. I was sitting barefoot on the same stretch of Neptune Beach, my feet buried in the warm sand. The sunset painted the sky in soft brushstrokes, gold, peach, violet, just like it had the year before. But this time, everything felt different. Nathan handed me a glass of red wine and flopped down next to me with a playful sigh. All right, birthday girl, one wish, go. I already made it, I said with a grin. Aunt Lydia was sitting cross-legged by the fire pit again, poking the logs like she was born for it. She wore one of those oversized sun hats and a pair of ridiculous cat-eye sunglasses that only she could pull off. I think your wish came true months ago, she said, giving me a wink. I'll drink to that, Nathan said, raising his glass, so we clinked. There were no cupcakes this time, no decorations, just the people who never asked me to be smaller, never put price tags on my worth. I had built something this year, something I didn't even know I was capable of. The self-love fund had grown, steadily, responsibly. I'd launched a side business, something small and mine, helping people write personal statements and resumes, the kind of invisible work I used to do for free for family who never thanked me. Now I charged what I was worth, and people paid it gladly. I'd gone to Spain in the spring. Alone, ate pastries in quiet plazas. Learned to say I'm enough in a language that felt new but honest on my tongue. And no, I hadn't spoken to my father or Hannah, not once. Not on holidays. Not when the guilt tried to creep in like fog under the door. I'd blocked the door and lit a fire inside it. As the sky darkened, I leaned back on my hands and let the breeze carry the scent of salt and smoke across my skin. Nathan watched me quietly. What are you thinking? I looked at him, then out at the waves. That I used to think love meant sacrifice. A pause. Now I know it means showing up for yourself first. Aunt Lydia raised her glass in the firelight. To showing up. We all drank. And somewhere deep inside, I knew this wasn't the end of the story. Just the start of the one I'd finally chosen for myself, where I wasn't the side character, where I didn't need to be needed to be loved, where I was enough, just sitting here, with sand between my toes and no weight on my shoulders. And that was the end of my story. I keep thinking about Aunt Lydia, how she told me the truth without knowing how much it would break or how much it would set me free. She didn't owe me anything, but she chose honesty over silence. What would you have done in her place? Would you have spoken up, even if it meant shaking the whole family tree? Tell me in the comments. And if this story made you feel anything at all, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay close. Because sometimes, the people who truly show up aren't the ones we were born to, but the ones who choose us along the way.